This video is dedicated to Christian Roberts. Christian, thank you. Daretti Scrap Savant versus Golos Tireless Pilgrim, Kumina Tyrant of Haraska, and Apala Pilot Exemplar. This hand is, well, it's a one-lander, so yeah, it's a shame, but we'll have to mulligan there. Alright, that is much better. We've got some stuff to discard and reanimate with the Scrap Mastery potentially. So yeah, we'll keep on that one. Just a tap land in Field of the Dead to start things off, so I'm guessing this is the Field of the Dead deck from GoGo. We will start things off with Myriad Landscape. Okay, and that is twice in a row that the Kumina player has decided to pass through the turn. I think they started the game off. Yeah, they're still with us. They've discarded a Prime Speaker Zagana and a Return of the Wild Speaker, so kept a no-lander, I'm assuming. Anyway, GoGo continuing to go off. A Khan's Bastion, a Rock, and that took him into Expedition Map. We can't activate the Myriad Landscape anyway, so we might as well go Faithless Looting here, start to load up our graveyard. And get into some more lands, get rid of Wormcoil and Spine of Isar. And we're cracking Myriad Landscape next turn, I imagine. And the Simic player has decided to scoop. So that immediately turns into a 3-player game. Apologies to Christian Roberts. This deck is being brought to us by Christian Roberts, by the way, Mythic Patron of the channel, so big thank you to him for his continued support. An Enlightened Shooter from Depala. That is land tax that he went for. Home Doggy, also a patron of the channel, by the way, as is GoGo Batman. And it was a land tax from Home Doggy. And it was a Vandal Blast onto the Expedition Map as well. That's a well-timed destruction of Expedition Map because he was probably going for the Valakut. No, not Valakut. Copying the Field of the Dead, I forget the name of it. Vesuva is the card I was thinking of. Then the good lands just keep coming. The World Tree this time to fix his colours. And Talisman of Indulgence this time. Artbound Ravager for us, yeah. We're just going for cracking the Myriad Landscape. No creatures in play yet, which might bode well for us with the Daretti, but I dare say we'll see the Golos come down next turn. And that will probably get them into the Vesuva. Haven't seen our Strip Mine yet, unfortunately. Land tax triggers for home. And he plays one of the planes, so we know that he's got 2 basics in hand. An Aerial Recruiter, Flying Vigilance and Lifelink. Now an Inventor's Fair from GoGo, 4 cards in hand. And slamming down the Golos, I imagine. Yep. Round to our turn, we'll get in the Gilded Lotus. And we might even be able to go Scrap Mastery next turn. How's about we just go for Faithless Looting then? Look at some more cards. That is a Servo Schematic. So if we're thinking of going for Scrap Mastery, then we can just ditch the 2 artifacts, I think. Although maybe Goblin Welder is a better idea. We'll get rid of a land and the Arcbound Ravager, because I might just go Servo Schematic and try and set up a Goblin Welder next turn. Land tax continuing to trigger. It's good to keep track of the basics that they've got in hand, because you can often just end up with a handful of basics with land tax. They do go for all 3 basics there. And then Dousing Dagger after playing one of the mountains. And the Dousing Dagger gives us some plant tokens. Then gets equipped for a 4/4 Flying Lifelink and Vigilance Aerial Responder, which goes in at GoGo. It's going to be a 2-on-1, I imagine. Transforming the Dousing Dagger into Lost Veil, which gives them 3 mana of any 1 colour. And then it is the first vehicle of the game, Heart of Kiran. Then Vamp Tutor from GoGo at the end of the turn. And they played out the Mirror Pool there, but I'm not sure what they went for with the Vamp Tutor exactly, if it was this or not. Anyway, I assume they're just holding up the Golos ability here, but there are timing restrictions on that, so they might not be able to cast everything that they go for with the Golos. Another land for us we will play. And I think it's time for us to get down our Daretti. And we'll go for the schematic and get ourselves into a servo. Then I think Spinovis Sar goes for any permanent, doesn't it? Destroy a target permanent, so we'll grab that, sacrifice the servo schematic, and we'll get rid of the world tree, I think, because that will mess up their colours. And they tap down that for a black in response. And that is ad nauseum. Yep, seeing a pretty strong deck from GoGo here. They've gone up to 17 cards in hand, down to 12 life. And they'll lose their world tree here. So we'll end the turn. We'll get the Goblin Welder into play because I might want to go for Scrap Mastery next turn, get the Spine of Isar into the bin and then reanimate it with the Welder to get rid of the Field of the Dead. But I don't know what they're going to do with those 17 cards next turn. Land tax continuing to trigger over here. And they play a Mountain, so we know that 6 of their currently 10 cards are basics. But they do have a terrain generator in play, so they can get those into play tapped for a bit of ramp with the land tax. Will effectively cost them 3 mana to do that though. Anyway, Dapala, Pilot Exemplar coming into play. Now might be a good time to go in with some flyers towards GoGo while he's at 12 life. A Sword of Fire and Ice as well. Goes on to the aerial. And they have to hit a player with that, so I would think that they would go in at GoGo here still. That'll be 5, 10 and 12 exactly, so GoGo could be taken out here. Yep, and Home Doggy doing the right thing. I know I'm biased, but it's Golos, it's Field of the Dead, and they've shown themselves to be very strong here, plus they've got 17 cards in hand. We'll see where this shot goes. I'm assuming that it's going to finish off GoGo. And yep, that gets pointed at him. So a quick one this time round for Christian. We'll see how well we fare against home. We're both at high life totals, so I dare say it'll go on for a while yet. On to our turn. That is a Tormenting Voice. How's about we go for the plus on Daretti before anything else? I'm going to risk discarding Starstorm here. Yeah, I might regret that, but they've got protection from red now anyway. So we'll get rid of Starstorm and a land, get into Inventor's Fair. Yep, getting some card draw stuff here. Let's sacrifice the Spine of Isar. That can bring back the Artbound Ravager so that we can sacrifice the Gilded Lotus and then it will come back with the Scrap Mastery. Spine of Isar goes back to our hand. So maybe we just cast that here. Or maybe we discard Spine of Isar to... we discard a card with that, yeah. We'll discard the Spine of Isar and then go for the Scrap Mastery, I think. Might as well draw some cards. Alright, a Mana Vault. So we'll go for the Mana Vault. Tap that down and go Thrill of Possibility to get rid of the Steel Hellkite, which can also come back with the Scrap Mastery. And now it's Mesmeric Orb. So we can play and sacrifice that as well. So now that they are in play, we'll sacrifice them. Artbound Ravager can sacrifice itself. So we will sacrifice the Artbound Ravager to its own ability. And then it doesn't matter about the modular, we're going to lose the servo tokens anyway. Suppose we could have dumped another plus counter on there by getting rid of the token with the Artbound Ravager and then swung in to try and get rid of their aerial responder. But not to worry. Go for the Scrap Mastery here and we'll reanimate all of our artifacts. Our opponent doesn't have any artifacts in their graveyard, so we'll get rid of their Sword of Fire and Ice, and we get rid of their Heart of Kieran as well. Spine of Isar can get rid of the aerial responder because of the flying and lifelink, protect our commander with that. Okay, so that is that as far as I can tell. We'll pass the turn at that and see if our opponent's got anything for us. Mesmeric Orb triggering before the land tax does. We've already used the Scrap Mastery, of course, so we don't really need to keep track of how many artifacts they've got in the bin. They went for Myriad Landscape this time around, and destroy all non-land permanents. Okay. Yeah, so we're looking pretty bad here. We'll get Spine of Isar back to hand. Not sure there's anything else we really want to do here. We'll sacrifice everything with the Arcbound Ravager, and then I don't think we'll be able to put the counters onto the Worm Coil Engine tokens. Anyway, let's start sacrificing stuff. So getting a bunch of plus counters on the Arcbound Ravager again. I don't think we're going to be able to... Do we have to target things when Arcbound Ravager's modular is on the stack? If that's the case, I don't think we'll be able to target anything. Return that to the command zone. Yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't think we'll be able to put the plus counters on the tokens. Yeah, we need a legal target in order to be able to use that. Our opponent is at 6 cards in hand, but they are all lands as far as we can tell. Don't think I've lost track of any basics. So our opponent's tapped out. We get a Death Toucher and a Lifelinker. We're probably just slamming down our Daretti again. And we can discard Squee, Goblin Nabob, another land. So we'll get down Daretti, see what we draw into here. Squee will come back into our hand at the beginning of our upkeep. And that is an Anger. Yeah, so probably just discard the Spine of Isar and Anger if we don't see anything too scary next turn. Wanted to keep the Spine of Isar in hand for a turn, just in case we see something that we want to blow up. Swing in for 6 damage, we'll gain 3. So we're both at 43. A Durgar Hedge Mage, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy an artifact and destroy an enchantment if you control enough stuff. So they get rid of the Death Toucher, we'll keep the 3/3 lifelink. And then Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, that is a crew of 3. And that dealt 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker when it entered, so that is Daretti. We can still -2 on that if we want to, but I think I'll be going for the plus anyway. Might go for the Spine of Isar onto that Sovereign though. Get the Squeak Goblin Nabob back into hand. Draw for the turn, that is a Rings of Brighthearth. Yeah, I don't trust that the Sky Sovereign won't be animated next turn. Let's go through to combat first, and we'll see if they want to block with the Hedge Mage. Noteworthy that this is in play now as well. Search for an Aura and or equipment. They do not block. So we'll plus. Get rid of Anger and Squee. That is a Meteor Golem, which gets a body into play, which gets rid of... I'm actually thinking we could get rid of this so that they don't get a tutor. So yeah, let's go Meteor Golem here. Oh, it's actually non-land permanent anyway, so we'll get rid of this then. We wanted a body in play anyway, so that we could try and protect our Daretti. All of our creatures have haste now, thanks to the Anger being in the bin. First thing they do is sacrifice their Myriad Landscape. Then Terrain Generator. And they've still got the mana for the Axguard Armory. Okay, there's Depala, so we've got another turn to get rid of the land. So at the beginning of our turn, Squee comes back into hand again. That is a Metal Worker with haste. So I think that's alright to get down. Tap that down for mana immediately. We'll get 6 from revealing these, which means we can go Dreamstone Hedron. And then I think we need to go Spine of Isar to get rid of that tutor land straight away. And at this point, I think we're probably trying to get up to Daretti's Limit Break as soon as we can. It'll take a good few turns, but if we control the board nicely, then we should be able to do it. Rings of Brighthearth, I'm not sure we're going to make use of without anything decent in hand. It'll rely on a top deck is the problem, so we could draw cards with the Hedron, but I'll discard it for now. Okay, Dockside is okay. Blasphemous Act could get us out of a sticky spot, so we'll just pass the turn at this. I don't mind blocking with either of my creatures. Terrain Generator, continuing to get these basics out that came from the land tax. And that was a mountain this time. Now the commander coming in towards us, and they'll pay a bunch of mana into X, I imagine. That looks like it is 6 into X. And they reveal some good stuff there, including Tempered Steel is a favourite of mine. I love that. That's a big pet card of mine I never get to run. Sword of the Animist and some lands, but the only card they get into hand there is Peace Walker Colossus. So we'll put the Meteor Golem back into the bin so that we can reanimate it if we want to. But it looks like they've got a trick up their sleeve. That is Generous Gift going on to the Golem, gives us another 3/3, so yeah, that's fine. We get rid of Generous Gift from their hand. And we get the Golem into the graveyard, which isn't necessarily the worst place for it, and we're still left with a 3/3, so yeah, that worked out pretty well for us. Inventor's Fair starting to gain us some life now. And Ancient Tomb, I don't think Dockside Extortionist is going to be all that much use to us. So let's discard Dockside and the Squee. And that is an O-Stone. We've got the Harnfell Horn of Bounty here, which is the main reason that this is in the deck. So yeah, we'll drop the Horn here, I think. Tap down the Metal Worker for some mana. And then we'll discard Blasphemous Act, I think is okay. And we exile a land and a Magsynth Lattice. Do I just want to crack the Dreamstone Hedron at this point? Can we do this at instant speed? No, we can do that whenever we want, so yeah, let's go Magsynth Wellspring. It's good sacrifice fodder, just in case we need to use the Daretti. And I'm thinking we're going to be using the Inventor's Fair at the end of our opponent's turn, but let's get rid of a land anyway. And this time it is Combustible Gear Hulk. I don't mind having that in play, to be honest, so let's go for the Gear Hulk. I had high hopes for this card, and it is serving very useful in this first game that I've played with this deck. See how much damage we can deal to our opponent. They decided to take a hit, and they went all the way down to 27 because they got rid of Arcane Signet, a Caged Sun, and a Gauntlet of Power, so that was a pretty decent hit from them. Going to swing in with the Hasty First Strike, 6/6 Combustible Gear Hulk. I imagine they just take it, but no, deciding to block. I thought they might take it for being able to crew. But if they've got the Peace Walker Colossus, they can pay 2 to crew the vehicles. So they don't necessarily need creatures in play at that point. So the Hedgewalker goes down, and we will keep hold of our Oblivion Stone. Couple of turns until we've got the emblem on Daretti. Whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return it to the battlefield at the next end step. Sensei's top. One card left in hand. And they spin the top. Then going for a card draw, because they like something that they saw on top there. And that is an Untethered Express with Trample. +1/+1 counter when it attacks, and crew 1. I'm not sure if they get haste somehow. Yeah, I don't think that their Untethered Express can get haste. Anyway, throwing down the Peace Walker Colossus, they are now empty-handed and deciding to hold back. And there is another land for us, so I'm going to discard the land because we'll probably get one off the top with the Horn. And there is one. Mere Sire isn't the best thing, but it's not necessarily the worst either. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to use O-Stone, so we'll discard both the O-Stone and the Squee. Darksteel Citadel gets our Metalcraft up if we need it, but don't think we're going to be making much use of that either. Metalworker will see these two as artifacts though. Let's play a land from exile. And I think we can crack the Dreamstone Hedron at this point. That will draw 3 cards. Okay, Cathartic Reunion. Codex Shredder gets something out of the graveyard if we want. Don't think we're going to be going after the reanimation spell in Scrap Mastery. Let's have a look. They might have some decent artifacts here, and I think they do. Sword of Fire and Ice, Heart of Kieran, the Scroll Rack, which is no use to them, empty-handed, Cultivator's Caravan, Sky Skiff. Yeah, and they'd be able to animate all this stuff with the Peace Walker, but that would be in the bin because they'd sacrificed it, so It might be worth going for that. We could set up that play with a memory jar though. Yeah, let's discard the Cathartic Reunion. Alright, there is a mere Battle Sphere. Mere Sire and another land. So maybe we just go for the Battle Sphere. Let's tap down the Metalworker. We can show all of our artifacts to our opponent. That is enough for the Battle Sphere. And that makes a bunch of tokens that we can chump with. Also gives us a big rear to block with because this has trample, so we do have to be wary of that. Let's throw down the Codex Shredder as well. And then I think we want the Memory Jar in play. And then we might as well throw down the Mere Sire because we can't afford the Solemn Simulacrum. And then I'm going to swing in with the Combustible Gear Hulk. I want to hold back the Mere Battlesphere for blocking because of the trample, so we'll just go in like that. If they want to animate one of their creatures here, that's fine. Or even two of their creatures. Well, there's one. The Untethered Express might block here. Alright, just deciding to crew that. That will be a 7/7, so they'll be able to chump here. Don't mind Combustible Gear Hulk getting reanimated. So they block there, that goes down. And I think that is us done. So we'll pass like that. We'll have a bunch of mana next turn because we can go for the Memory Jar and hopefully fill our hand with a bunch of artifacts. Tap down and show all the artifacts with Metalworker and then play them all. Probably going for the Scrap Mastery next turn as well as the Emblem with Daretti. Sensei's top they draw into because they put it on top of their library previously. So they'll probably spin and put it back on top this turn. Animating their Express. Then spinning the top. Then it's tap and draw. But they decide not to swing in at us. So at the end of the turn we will mill a card here. And we just get rid of a land. So we get Squee back into hand again. And that is a Chaos Warp which may come in handy for us. Just in case they've got some kind of burn, I think they would have used it by now, but we'll go for the Emblem on Daretti now. And then we can discard a couple of artifacts before we go for the reanimation. A couple of lands there, including a sequestered stash. So we'll get rid of the Darksteel Citadel as well. Alright, that's nice. A Darksteel Forge might actually play that. Let's go Memory Jar. That triggers the Daretti, so we will get the Memory Jar back at the end of the turn. Swords to Plowshares goes on to the Mere Battlesphere. Don't really care about that. There is an Ugin available to us as well. Alright, surprisingly, not getting into any artifacts there. Which is disappointing, so... what to do there? I think it might be worth a Wheel of Fortune then. Our opponent's going to discard their hand anyway. So yeah, let's go Wheel of Fortune. We'll play the Valakut, that's worth having in play. Alright, and that is a bunch more artifacts, that's more like it. So we'll tap down, reveal all this stuff. That gets us 12 mana. We'll go for the Darksteel Forge first of all. Don't know if there's really too much reason to reanimate all of our stuff after all, because we've got Skull Clamp and Card Draw and Mindslaver and all that now. Go for the Mana Crypt. Drop down the Mindslaver. Mindslaver takes control of our opponent during his next turn. And we'll get that back at the end of our turn thanks to Daretti's Emblem. So we're pretty safe at this point. Throw down the Clamp. It's a shame we can't get down the Burnished Heart for the Lightning Bolts, but I don't think we can really complain at this point. We'll go for Universal Solvent. And then it is through to combat, I think. We can just turn everything sideways here because it's indestructible, but also we're controlling our opponent during their next turn. They do have 7 cards in hand though, so they can animate their creatures if they want to. They might have other means of performing some kind of trick. We didn't look at what they discarded previously, so I'll expand the graveyard there. We have managed to get rid of their Sensei's top because they drew it and then discarded it with the wheel. They block the 2 biggest things, I'm assuming. We will gain some life from the worm. And then I'm not going to clamp because we'll draw the cards and discard them, which doesn't necessarily matter because we are a reanimator deck, but still. So the memory jar triggers will get the 2 artifacts that died this turn back into play. That is the memory jar and the mind slaver. So we've got infinite mind slavers on our opponent at this point, so it would be fair enough if they were to scoop, if they want to play it out, or they're respectfully playing it out for the sake of all of you watching and for the content creation side of it, then a big thank you to them for that. I'll get it done as soon as I can. So we'll just play out the drum, and yeah, we might as well just tap out. We'll swing in at ourselves with Depala. We don't care about the life, and we don't want them to be able to... I don't see what they can do with Depala, but if they can block, we don't want them to be able to do that. And then it's the beginning of the end step now, so we'll go for Memory Jar, and we'll only discard the hand that we get at the beginning of our end step. Might as well start with a full grip. And we can have a look at what our opponent drew into there, which isn't much of anything. Good to see the back of the Austere Command and the Blasphemous Act though. Parhelions, a favourite of mine. And there is Phyrexian Triniform as well, which is going to be a nice chunk of life. We'll go for the Lightning Bolt first of all, and we'll bolt our opponent. Going to try and take them out this turn as best I can. Get the rocks into play. Go for the Phyrexian Triniform. So all we have to do is play out the Scrap Trawler here, I think, and that should be enough. And there we are, managing to get him. Big thank you to Home Doggy for playing that out. Apologies to Christian, because it did kind of turn into a 1v1, but you got to see a lot of what we want to do in Daretti. I know Christian said that we haven't seen Daretti on the channel for a long time, so hopefully that will quench your thirst for Daretti content. Big thank you to Christian Roberts for supporting the channel at the Mythic tier and sponsoring today's video. If you want to support the channel at the Mythic tier as well, then you can follow the link through to Patreon in the description below. There is a link in there, takes you straight through to it. Big thank you to you if you decide to do that, and I will see you all in the next one, I hope. I'm tribalkai on the eedi-H channel. Thank you for watching.